everybody, and welcome to our first budget hearing of the 2020 recommended budget time. And it is November 18th, 2019. And we will begin with our recommended budget message from our Franklin County Administrator, Kenneth Wilson.
Thank you, President Brown. Good afternoon, Commissioners O'Grady, Commissioner Boyce, and audience. I'm Kenneth Wilson, County Administrator, and I'm pleased to present to the Board of Commissioners the 2020 recommended budget for Franklin County. Under the Commissioner's leadership, we present a budget that is fiscally responsible and prepares us to address our opportunities and challenges head-on as we begin a new decade. As you will see this afternoon, the initiatives supported by this budget reflect our commitment to every resident every day, whether it is creating pathways out of poverty, improving access to quality child care and early childhood education, implementing innovative programming in justice and in reentry, or addressing the county's infrastructure needs. The 2020 budget before you today supports our dedication to constant innovation, sustainability, and progress for the sake of providing the best quality of life for all of our residents. The 2020 recommended budget presents a fiscally strong and sustainable Franklin County. It's structurally balanced, preserves service levels in critical health and human service agencies, and protects the county's stellar bond rating. While the general fund ending cash balance dipped slightly in 2020, this is the result of utilizing $7 million from the 27th pay reserve for the extra pay period that will occur in 2020. The Commissioners established the 27th pay reserve fund as authorized by the Ohio Revised Code to accumulate resources for payment of salaries during any fiscal year in which the number of pay periods exceed the usual and customary number of pay periods. The previous 27th pay occurred in 2009, and the Commissioners have been accumulating resources for this event since 2014. After 2020, it is projected that the general fund ending cash balance will continue to grow. As an indication of the county's fiscal strength, the 2020 recommended budget includes a projected general fund ending cash balance of 42.2% of the total 2020 expenditures. This keeps the cash balance amongst the highest levels of counties rated AAA by both Moody's and Standard & Poor's. The general fund revenue in the 2020 recommended budget is expected to be $485.1 million, which reflects a 2.3% increase when compared to 2019 projections. In addition to the one-time $7 million transfer from the 27th Pay Reserve Fund, the public defender reimbursements are expected to increase by $6.4 million. In recent years, the public defender reimbursement rate has fluctuated based upon statewide demand and the amount of funding available in the Indigent Defense Fund. In 2017, the reimbursement rate decreased from 48% to 40%. The previous state biannual budget, the reimbursement, the increase in the state public defender reimbursement rate was from 40 to 45% effective July 2017. However, the rate was reduced to 42% for all cases in state fiscal year 2019. The state biennial budget for fiscal years 2020 and 2021, House Bill 166, includes a provision effective October 1st, 2019 to increase the reimbursement rate for county indigent defense expenditures up to 75% in state fiscal 2020 and up to 100% in state fiscal year 2021. Based on historical fluctuations, county agencies and courts have agreed that an anticipated increase in the reimbursement rate should be set at 70% for 2020. The 2020 recommended budget includes an anticipated 1% growth rate in overall county sales tax collections in 2020 when compared to 2019 actuals. Finally, investment earnings are estimated at $24 million, which is $1.4 million or 5.5% less than the projected actuals for 2019 as a result of current Federal Reserve policies. The 2020 recommended budget contains $481.7 million in general fund appropriations, which is $16.8 million or 3.6% more than 2019 projected expenditures. During the 2020 budget process that began in May, the Franklin County Office of Management and Budget, or OMB, assessed the budget requests of every agency, office, and court within the context of county mandatory requirements, statutory duties, and demand for services. OMB reviews and suggestions were used by county administration to develop the recommended budget. As a result of this analysis, the 2020 recommended general fund budget is $6.9 million or 1.4% less than the total amount requested. The increases in general fund appropriations are primarily attributed to the 3.7% increases in salary and wages and fringe benefits associated with the 27th pay occurring in 2020, and fully funding contingency in the budget as authorized by the Ohio Revised Code, which is equal to 3% of general fund expenditures or $14 million in 2020. The general fund appropriations also include a $2 million increase from 2019 projections for the costs associated with the 2020 presidential election. However, the 2020 recommended budget includes appropriations for the first half of the year within the Board of Elections budget, so they may conduct the primary election in March and finalize a communications plan before the general election in November. The remaining appropriations for the Board of Election will be held in Commissioner's Reserve Program. OMB will work with the Board of Elections during the second quarter of 2020 to determine the necessary amount needed for the remainder of the year. The increases in general fund appropriations are partially offset by a transfer of $6.8 million for contracts within the Affordable Housing Trust and the Community Shelter Board from community partnerships to economic development and planning within the new Affordable and Emergency Housing Fund. This decrease in community partnerships is partially offset by an increase in the general fund of $1 million for the Arts and Cultural Fund and $800,000 for Catalyst grants. As shown in the chart, $279.6 million or 58% of the general fund budget is allocated to the provision of justice and public safety. Of that amount, $152.5 million supports the Franklin County Sheriff's Office.
The 2020 recommended budget for justice and public safety also includes $85.3 million in the general fund to support the operations of the courts and $35.5 million for criminal and civil prosecution and legal defense services. In addition to the amounts in the chart, the recommended budget includes $340,000 in support of the municipal court specialty dockets and $250,000 for the Guardianship Services Board in 2020. While a majority of the general fund supports justice and public safety, the largest portion of the all funds budget is dedicated to social and human services. The total amount of budget appropriations recommended for all county funds in 2020 is $1.8 billion, which represents an $83.3 million or 4.9% increase from 2019 projected actuals. The increases in the all funds budget are primarily attributed to the 27th pay period occurring in 2020 and the timing of capital expenditures related to the construction of the new Franklin County Correction Center. As the largest category in the all funds budget, social and human services represents 42.6% of the total 2020 recommended budget. Franklin County delivers a variety of social and human services in order to meet the needs of its residents, which are mostly supported by property tax levies as well as state and federal funds. As seen in the chart, 1/3, or $246.6 million of these expenditures are for the Franklin County Board of Developmental Disabilities. The board serves over 20,000 individuals with developmental disabilities so they can live, work, learn, and participate in the community. Another $212.6 million, or 28.2% of these expenditures, support the work of Franklin County Children's Services. The agency is projecting that over 13,000 referrals from the community will be screened for the assessment and investigation of child abuse and neglect in 2020. The successful package of the 10-year of the 10-year 3.1 mil renewal levy on the November 5th, 2019 ballot enables Children's Services to maintain quality services for the children and families of Franklin County who need them. The 2020 recommended budget for the Franklin County Office on Aging, which provides centralized access to programs and individualized services for older adults and their caregivers so they can preserve their independence and quality of life, is $46.8 million. The Office on Aging anticipates serving 9,250 seniors enrolled in the Senior Options Program in 2020. Also within the 2020 recommended Social and Human Services budget are general fund dollars for a mandated share of $4.5 million for programs administered by the Franklin County Department of Job and Family Services, a $3.4 million subsidy to the Child Support Enforcement Agency, and $13 million for various grants funded through community partnerships.
Commissioners, in order to review the 2020 recommended budget in more detail, we will now highlight major 2019 achievements and planned 2020 initiatives of Franklin County agencies. Our first priority is to focus our efforts on serving, supporting, and uplifting all residents. As Ohio's most populous county, our residents represented 11.2% of the state's population in the year 2018. Over the last 10 years, Franklin County's population has grown by more than 160,000 people, or 13.9%, to now over 1.3 million residents. In 2018 alone, we added more than 18,000 people. There is little indication that this trend will slow over the next decade. While Franklin County has seen population growth and increasing opportunities, not everyone in the community has benefited. In September 2019, the unemployment rate for Franklin County was only 3.7%. However, according to the U.S. Census Bureau, the poverty rate for all people in Franklin County was 15.5% in 2018. Even more distressing are the racial and other disparities. The poverty rate for African Americans is twice the county average, and 22.3% of all children in Franklin County are living in poverty. As the leading provider of social safety net services, Franklin County agencies serve many of the nearly 200,000 residents who struggle to make ends meet every day. Disrupting poverty in Franklin County requires a response from the entire Central Ohio community to bring residents out of poverty and to share in the progress.
In the fall of 2018, the commissioners began an initiative to analyze the causes of poverty that are unique to Central Ohio, identify the resources that are available in our community, and create a plan to more efficiently bring those resources to bear on the problem with a community-wide systematic approach. They assembled a steering committee of subject matter experts and community members from all walks of life, hosted conversations with hundreds of Franklin County residents who are living in poverty, and studied nationwide best practices. In 2019, the Steering Committee produced a Rise Together blueprint for reducing poverty in Franklin County, including a list of more than 120 goals, action steps, and recommendations to be worked on, to which the commissioners have added some more actions that we can take away right now. Informed by stakeholder input, the Steering Committee agreed on 4 main goal areas: increasing access to high-paying jobs, stabilize housing for families near or below poverty, increase physical, mental, and behavioral health and overall well-being through increased access to care, utilization of services, and social connectedness, and ensure all young people are on track for long-term success. The Steering Committee also believes structural and systematic racism are underlying conditions within the challenges of addressing poverty, which requires proactive measures and priorities to remedy. With Phase 1 complete, Franklin County, under the leadership of the commissioners, took the lead in the activation of phase of the Rise Together Franklin County by taking the following immediate actions in 2019, such as the commissioners set a living wage for county employees by raising the minimum pay rate to $15 per hour and adjusting the pay scale accordingly. The commissioners, county administration, select county agency staff the Leadership Council, and other community partners participated in racial equity training conducted by a nationally recognized training firm. The commissioners also began conversations with local nonprofits and community organizations to establish a countywide partnership for ongoing training, community conversations, and programming in the area of racial equity. The terms of the 2020 Combined Charitable Campaign, in which county employees donate over $300,000 to charity, were changed to keep these important donations with charities right here in our community. The 2020 recommended budget includes $2.5 million to seed the beginning work of the Franklin County Innovation Center Leadership Council. Based on the recommendations in the Rise Together blueprint, the commissioners selected a 21-member council of community partners and residents to convene and coordinate all efforts to mitigate poverty and increase economic mobility. The Leadership Council will continue meeting over the course of the next year. The council is currently determining the most appropriate nonprofit governance structure or strategic affiliation for its long-term work. In 2020, the council plans to appoint an executive director and 2 Innovation Center fellows, with one dedicated to policy research and the other dedicated on administrative functions of the council. The Leadership Council will continue to complete projects such as the Youth Portal and Clearinghouse, the establishment of a new workforce development and the establishment of new workforce development anti-poverty initiatives, early childhood initiatives, and expanding racial equity training throughout the county. Other Rise Together immediate actions taken by the Commission in 2019 and additional initiatives that will be supported in the 2020 recommended budget will be highlighted throughout the remainder of this presentation.
The continuation of Building Futures, the Commissioner's premier workforce training program, and expansion of similar models in other fields is an immediate county action related to the Rise Together goal to increase access to high-paying jobs. Building Futures, which has been in place for more than a year, connects low-income residents from traditionally underrepresented populations with pre-apprenticeship training in the skilled building trades and provides them with a path to the middle class. Participants receive both soft skills training, including interpersonal skills and financial literacy, followed by hard skills, including safety certification and trade-specific instruction, all while receiving a weekly $250 stipend. They are also connected with other supportive services offered by Franklin County to help address barriers like transportation, housing, and childcare. In the last year, the program placed 89% of graduates in jobs with an average hourly wage of $18.08 at placement. In late 2018, this workforce training model was expanded to the field of community health, which has in-demand jobs that pay a living wage and serve as a pathway to a healthcare career. The Franklin County Department of Job and Family Services partnered with the Ohio State College of Nursing and Columbus Public Health in piloting the Building Healthcare Futures program to support 72 individuals in obtaining community health worker training and certification. The 12-week certificate program provides residents from low-income communities with the skills and training needed to become licensed community health partners and workers. After completing the program, the health workers begin paid internships with different nonprofits within high-priority neighborhoods. These Celebrate One community connectors help build individual and community capacity by increasing health knowledge and self-sufficiency through a range of activities such as outreach, community education, informal counseling, social support, and advocacy. Earlier this year, the Franklin County Department of Job and Family Services partnered with Impact Community Action and the Capital Transportation Academy to pilot the Roads to Work training program for 20 participants. Roads to Work provides commercial driver's license training and transportation industry employment to individuals who are low to moderate income, underemployed, or restored citizens returning to the community from incarceration. This in-demand career is projected to grow 6% in the next several years and enables an individual to earn wages of $45,000 to $50,000 per year plus benefits. It is anticipated that 75 additional participants will be served in the program in 2020. As a part of Rise Together, the commissioners are committed to funding these pilot programs for at least another year. The work initiated in 2018 by the Franklin County Board of Commissioners Advisory Council on Economic Inclusion continues in our partnership with Forward Cities, the nationally recognized inclusive entrepreneurship organization. Forward Cities is a national nonprofit equipping communities and regions to grow and sustain more equitable entrepreneurial ecosystems. Franklin County Forward Cities is an innovation accelerator at work in the King Lincoln neighborhood and the city of Whitehall. From June 10th to 12th in 2020, the Commissioners, along with our partners, the Columbus Foundation, Columbus Partnership, and Rev 1, will host the 2020 Forward Cities National Conference. We will welcome practitioners from across the country who are engaged in creating a framework that advances entrepreneurs of color. Our agenda includes racial equity training, a staple of the Forward Cities platform, and robust discussions on promising practices, best practices, and proven success strategies in inclusive small business development.
Commissioners, another immediate county action in support of Rise Together is Step Up to Quality Child Care Provider Training. Franklin County is committed to expanding access to high-quality, star-rated early learning programs for low-income families and offering free training to help state-licensed child care providers meet the state's 2020 Step Up to Quality Early Learning standards. Franklin County Job and Family Services first began offering training in earnest in July of 2018. Since then, more than 380 center and home child care providers have completed the training, and 205 of those have obtained a star rating. This effort will help ensure that children in our community are receiving the highest quality child care and that their parents are able to continue working. As of October, 68% of children are in star-rated care, and it is anticipated that fully 3/4 of children will be in star-rated programs heading into 2020. Tens of thousands of Franklin County residents rely on publicly funded child care and would have to make other arrangements if their providers are not star-rated in time, causing disruptions throughout the community and our local economy. To date, commissioners have provided $1.6 million in support of this unfunded state mandate. This includes having a dedicated employee who has been going door to door to the largest unrated centers to share resources about Step Up to Quality and to register providers for job and family services training right on the spot. They will also continue to advocate for Franklin County families at the state level, urging strong collaboration and partnerships among our state partners, advocacy groups, and providers to ensure that long-term success and sustainability of the program. In addition, the 2020 recommended budget includes $400,000 for Future Ready Columbus. No child's future should be determined by his or her zip code. The goal of Future Ready Columbus's early childhood initiative is that 100% of children in Franklin County will demonstrate kindergarten readiness when entering school. Future Ready Columbus will organize, align, and mobilize stakeholders in this effort to assist children from birth to age 5 and their families.
Families in Franklin County continue to be impacted by the opiate epidemic. According to the Franklin County Coroner's Office, there were 522 drug overdose deaths in 2018. While the number of lives lost to drug addiction remains unchanged from 2017, it is 77.9% higher than 2014. Preliminary reports from the Coroner's Office indicate that 254 people died of drug overdoses in the first 6 months of 2019, up 4% from the same period in 2018. As a result, Franklin County agencies continue their efforts to address this crisis. The Ohio Opioid Education Alliance is a coalition of business, education, nonprofit, civic, and government organizations formed by the Alcohol, Drug, and Mental Health (ADMH) Board of Franklin County to educate and prevent young Ohioans from misusing and abusing opioids. In June 2018, Denial Ohio campaign ads launched in Central Ohio, and in April 2019 expanded statewide with an additional paid social media campaign. In October, the Ohio Opioid Education Alliance announced survey results demonstrating its Denial Ohio advertising campaign is successfully reaching parents and caregivers as well as making a significant impact. The new research shows that a majority of those who have seen the ads are answering the call to action by talking to their kids about opioids as a result, as well as properly disposing of their leftover pills. The Nationwide Foundation played a primary role in establishing the alliance with a $2 million donation. In addition to the Commissioner's support of $250,000 in 2019, other Franklin County agencies, such as Franklin County Children's Services and the Board of Developmental Disabilities, have become alliance partners. The 2020 recommended budget includes $250,000 in the Commissioner's budget for continued support of the Alliance. The 2020 recommended budget for the Alcohol, Drug, and Mental Health Board includes a total of $24.8 million in all funds for the provision of addiction treatment and prevention services to Franklin County's residents. This is a 9.2% increase over the previous year.
Franklin County is also maintaining its commitment to the goals of Rise Together through community partnerships and the new Catalyst Grant Initiative. Community Partnerships has undergone a number of changes this past year in order to create funding opportunities for both current and new grantees throughout the county. In 2019, the Commissioners allocated $1.5 million to a new initiative called the Catalyst Grant Program, which is intended to spark meaningful change in the priority areas of economic security, personal and family empowerment, emerging and basic needs, and community enrichment. 13 three-year grants were awarded through an open grant review process, including the following. The Heart of Ohio Family Health Center received a $250,000 allocation for the Whitehall School-Based Health Center. Goals of the grant include developing a school-based primary care clinic at Whitehall High School, increasing the number of children ages 5 to 17 who have access to primary health care, and increasing the number of patients ages 12 and older who are screened for depression. Children with a positive depression screening will be provided a documented follow-up plan. Goodwill Columbus received nearly $190,000 for the Goodwill Dropout Recovery Expansion Project. Goodwill Columbus will use the grant funding to provide individualized career skills training to students at 4 dropout prevention high schools: Focus Learning Academy North, Southwest, and Southeast, as well as the Flex High School. The program will provide work readiness training, occupational skills training, and credential attainment, as well as job placement services with a career consultant to the targeted students. The Charitable Pharmacy received nearly $100,000 for the Medication Access Program expansion that will expand services to at least 250 unduplicated, underserved patients at a new location in Franklin County. The goal of the program is to provide one-on-one consultations to patients to stabilize healthcare insecurity and prevent hospitalizations. In 2019, a total of $3 million was set aside in community partnerships for support of the arts and cultural facilities. With an additional $1 million in support from the general fund, a total of $4 million is included in this 2020 recommended budget, which will be managed in partnership with the Greater Columbus Arts Council. Community Partnerships is currently convening a review process for an open community partnerships grant opportunity. The proposed grants have to address one of the Commissioner's 5 core principles. Eligible applicants for the one-year grants included all nonprofit entities with a 501c3 designation or governmental entities operating in Franklin County for at least 3 years. Selected grantees will be announced before the end of this year for funding in the year 2020. The 2020 recommended budget before you also includes $750,000 for a new open catalyst grant process for an award period beginning in July of 2020. Look for details regarding this new funding opportunity in the first quarter of the year. Finally, several previously funded community partnerships will continue to receive funding next year, such as Nationwide Children's Hospital Behavioral Health Partnership. The 2020 recommended budget includes $450,000 to maintain and improve clinical mental health services at local schools, provide signs of suicide prevention services at schools, integrate mental health services at primary care clinics, and expand outpatient visits, including crisis team interventions for children and families in Franklin County. In coordination with the Rise Together Blueprint, the Franklin County Department of Economic Development and Planning underwent a strategic planning process to provide a roadmap for economic development work in the county in the next 5 years. Through this process, 5 strategic priorities were identified to guide Franklin County's economic development work. First, assist Franklin County's communities in preparing for anticipated job and population changes. Second, promote quality work opportunities within Franklin County. Third, include resident perspectives more intentionally in economic development work. Fourth, reduce disparities and expand economic inclusion among Franklin County residents. And finally, create an environment that encourages commercial activities and in which entrepreneurs and small businesses from all backgrounds are able to start up and grow. The strategic plan organized the programs and policy initiatives that are consistent with economic development and planning's mission, goals, and strategic priorities into 6 key categories representing recommended areas of focus. First, partnership, leadership, and collaboration to engage internal and external partners more intentionally in pursuit of the county's economic development work. Second, reconfiguration of the SmartWorks program, including expansion of infrastructure works, transitioning energy works to other financing options, reallocating people work resources, and establishing partner works to report on progress toward county priorities from funds provided to our partners. Third, financing tools and incentives that build on the current approach to maximize the potential for incentive programs to accomplish the county's intended objectives. Fourth, playing a meaningful role in the small business and entrepreneurship ecosystem to fill gaps and provide regional leadership by actively engaging with other municipal and county initiatives around inclusion and diversity among small businesses. Fifth, leveraging the Rickenbacker area opportunities through policy innovation with a comprehensive economic and community development approach that thoughtfully addresses workforce mobility, transportation, and housing issues that would allow the area to reach its potential. And finally, leading Franklin County's response to the region's affordable housing challenge, including housing policy and advocacy. In the summer of 2019, Franklin County Economic Development and Planning issued recommendations for an affordable housing implementation framework that aligns with the Rise Together Blueprint's goals on housing and its action steps. The recommendations include 3 core considerations. First, preserving the established county funding for affordable housing. Second, new housing incentives, zoning updates, and non-monetary policies. And third, new county-funded initiatives. The 2020 recommended budget before you includes a $15.6 million increase in Economic Development and Planning's budget related to the creation of a new affordable and emergency housing fund. Of this amount, $6.8 million is from the permissive conveyance fee that was previously expended and will continue to be expended for the support of the Affordable Housing Trust and Community Shelter Board that was previously located under community partnerships. Another $6.8 million is supported by the revenue from the additional permissive conveyance fee you all approved earlier in 2019. And finally, the budget for this fund includes a $2 million transfer from the general fund for additional support to the Community Shelter Board, which reflects a $500,000 increase that will be dedicated solely towards homelessness prevention. The Community Shelter Board projects that the additional investment will the Community Shelter Board projects that the additional investment will prevent nearly 200 Franklin County families from becoming homeless. Recommendations related to the housing incentives and zoning updates include considerations of Ohio's reinvestment area tax abatements, Ohio's tax increment financing for affordable housing projects, and updates to zoning regulations to limit barriers to affordable housing. As part of the Economic Development and Planning Strategic Plan, Franklin County's commitment to regional objectives and sustainable economic development remains unchanged. The budget before you includes $2 million for Experience Columbus. The Greater Columbus region welcomes more than 41 million visitors every year who directly spend $7 billion at area businesses. The tourism sector supports nearly 78,000 jobs in Columbus and Franklin County. In addition to that investment, Franklin County will provide $1 million to One Columbus, formerly Columbus 2020. One Columbus, the economic development organization for the 11-county Columbus region, has set forth a vision to be the most prosperous region in the United States. Working with state and local partners, One Columbus will be focused on helping existing businesses grow and compete, diversifying the economy through the attraction of new businesses, and supporting newly formed high-growth enterprises. The 2020 recommended budget also includes $2.5 million for the development agreement with the City of Columbus and Crew SC Stadium Company for the support of Confluence Village and a community sports park. Under the terms of the agreement, the county will provide an annual economic development payment in the amount of $2.5 million to the Confluence Community Authority to support the project beginning this year in 2019 for a period of 30 years. It is estimated that the project and associated mixed-use development will support approximately 775 full-time equivalent jobs, which includes approximately 580 permanent full-time jobs related to the stadium, 70 full-time equivalent jobs related to the community sports park, and 125 full-time equivalent jobs relating to the mixed-use development. It is estimated that an additional 605 direct full-time construction jobs will be supported during construction of the project.
We'll now turn to the public safety element of the budget. Representing 58% of the general fund appropriations, the 2020 recommended budget is public safety oriented. The 2020 recommended budget includes $4.6 million for the Franklin County Office of Justice Policy and Programs, or JPP, in support of programs under the Commissioner's courageous and leading-edge philosophy towards smarter and more equitable justice. In addition to expanding the award-winning Pathways program to even more women with substance use and mental health challenges who are incarcerated, there are plans to expand that program to men in 2020. JPP will focus on target populations who are impacted by incarceration in the county, such as engaging families with minor children who face the trauma and stigma associated with incarceration, as well as the aging population who are incarcerated and re-enter the community. In 2020, there are plans for expanded support for LGBTQ residents who are incarcerated, returning from incarceration, or who have mental health or substance use challenges. For residents in active addiction or involved in survival sex work, JPP plans to increase access to naloxone, enhanced peer network support, vulnerability reduction technology, and stand-up street outreach. JPP will work to improve access to long-term supportive housing for the most frequent consumers of jail resources. JPP will support the Rise Together blueprint by aggressively pursuing reforms in the use of cash bail and the imposition of fines and fees upon already poor residents. Under the Commissioner's leadership, JPP staff will increase the focus on racial disparities across the justice system and formulate intentional anti-racist policies and solutions. Finally, JPP will continue support for alternatives to jail incarceration, including enhanced prosecutorial diversion, specialized docket enrollment, pretrial supervision, GPS electronic monitoring, and alternative sentencing centers. In 2019, the Commissioners approved the agreements and contract for the new case management system project. This multi-year project will consolidate 18 county systems and provide upgraded public access to court documents for the Clerk of Court's Office, Court of Common Pleas General Division, Court of Common Pleas Domestic Relations and Juvenile Division, Probate Court, and the 10th District Court of Appeals. The purpose of the project is to create an integrated, secure case management system that provides reliable, efficient, and accurate results to the public and increases the residents' access to justice. The new system, which will replace the Franklin County justice system that is over 30 years old, will provide enhanced reporting capabilities, real-time data exchange with other county systems, and a more robust security model to combat cyber threats, as well as introduce cloud hosting to reduce the disaster recovery process. To assist in the implementation of the new case management system, the 2020 recommended budget includes approximately $300,000 for a position in the general, domestic and juvenile, and probate divisions of the Franklin County Court of Common Pleas. In 2019, the Commissioners authorized the transfer of operations and duties of the Franklin County Office of Homeland Security and Regional Communications to the Franklin County Emergency Management and Homeland Security Agency in order to coordinate activities, avoid a duplication of duties, and more efficiently use available resources. The agency now administers Franklin County's Homeland Security hazards, threats, planning, preparedness, and recovery as part of their approach to creating resilient communities. They administer the county's Homeland Security training and grant projects, as well as provide oversight of the Alert Franklin County Emergency Notification System, radio communications, and the regional E911 system. The 2020 recommended budget includes $5.5 million in support of the Franklin County Emergency Management and Homeland Security Agency. The new Franklin County Forensic Science Center is expected to open in spring 2020. The new facility will replace the current morgue for the Franklin County Coroner, which has been in use since 1975. The new Forensic Science Center will be almost 57,000 square feet, making it 3 times larger than the current building, and will include 8 autopsy stations. In order to ensure proper facilities maintenance and support at the new location, the 2020 recommended budget includes approximately $150,000 for 2 new positions and the upgrade of a vacant part-time position to a full-time position in the Department of Public Facilities Management.
Commissioners, in a review of the highlights of the 2020 recommended budget, it is important to discuss some of the efforts that maintain responsive and sustainable government operations for the county's residents. In 2020, the Franklin County Engineers Office is establishing a new program to provide assistance to smaller local governments that may not have the capacity to undertake some projects. These projects could include infrastructure, maintenance, or small capital improvements. The Engineers Office would provide grants or in-kind donations to these governments to assist them in completing projects. The 2020 recommended budget includes $500,000 in support of this new initiative. The budget also includes an additional $500,000 from the general fund for an increase in the drainage infrastructure maintenance for a total of $1.2 million. The Engineers Office intends to utilize both staff and contract vendors for projects such as the Joseph Carr Ditch, Alder Ditch, and the Foley Ditch. The 2020 recommended budget includes $150,000 in the Commissioner's budget in support of the Northwest Corridor Study being led by the Mid-Ohio Regional Planning Commission. A mobility study of the Olentangy Parkway between Bethel Road and West Broad Street is being supported through a public-private partnership with CODA, MORPC, the Franklin County Board of Commissioners, the Ohio State University, Nationwide Insurance, Ohio Health, White Castle, Cover My Beds, as well as the City of Columbus. A team of professional engineering and planning firms will provide a multimodal vision and cost estimate of infrastructure improvements for this major growth corridor here in Central Ohio. The study will facilitate sustainable development patterns, access to jobs and opportunities, and equitable housing options for the community by 2050.
Without our employees, the commissioners would be unable to sustain their commitment to serving, supporting, and uplifting all residents of Franklin County through a lens of respect and human-centered care. As county administrator, I truly value and appreciate the many contributions of the county's employees. Understanding that Franklin County's success depends on our ability to attract and retain qualified and committed individuals. The 2020 recommended budget includes a number of initiatives that are intended to improve employee engagement. In recognition of their hard work and dedication to the residents of Franklin County, the 2020 recommended budget includes a reserve for a 2% cost of living and a 1.5% merit adjustment for qualifying non-bargaining employees. This is the 3rd year of the program that rewards high-performing staff. In 2020, the commissioners will continue their participation in the CODA Downtown C-Pass program, which provides a CODA transit pass for each employee as a general benefit of the county. The commissioners remain committed to pay equity through the Columbus Commitment, an initiative of the Columbus Women Commission that calls on employers to take action to promote gender and race-based pay equity. Employees are encouraged to participate in a number of professional development opportunities, such as training programs through Human Resources Department Office of Learning and Staff Development, tuition reimbursement for continuing undergraduate and graduate education, emerging leaders programs, John Glenn College of Public Affairs Management Advancement for the public services seminars at The Ohio State University, and the NACO Association of Counties High Performance Leadership Academy. In June of 2018, the commissioners approved a 1-year pilot program of the Volunteer Initiative Plan to support volunteer activities that enhance and serve the communities in which we live and work. The intention of this program is to create community engagement opportunities for non-bargaining employees that are meaningful, purposeful, and help those in need. At the same time, the commissioners recognize that participating in these activities will also enrich and inspire the lives of our employees. During the pilot phase, 223 volunteer opportunities were offered with 52 employees from half of the Board of Commissioner agencies participating. Based on this success, the Volunteer Initiative Program was made a permanent benefit in 2019. In January of 2018, the Commissioners approved a 2-year pilot program of paid family leave to allow employees time to provide parental care immediately following the birth of adoption of a minor child or to care for a covered family member who has a serious medical condition. A total of 88 employees used the paid family leave program in 2018 and 2019. Based on the results of the pilot, the Human Resources Department views the paid family leave program as an overwhelming success and recommend making this program permanent in November of 2019. The Franklin County Cooperative Health Improvement Program is currently in a very favorable position and is doing much better than national healthcare trends. As a result of Franklin County's wellness program, Thrive On, the 2020 recommended budget includes no increase for the cost of employee health care, while the national average is 7%. We will not rest on our current success because better health improves the quality of life for our employees and their families. For example, the inaugural Franklin County 5K and Thrive On Challenge took place on October 13th at Wolf Park. There were approximately 300 employees and family members who participated in the race. Another 5K and Thrive On Challenge is being planned for 2020. The budget we present today places Franklin County on the path to ensuring that every resident's needs are met on the fundamental social, wellness, economic, and environmental levels. As a result of the Board of Commissioners' vision and actions, the 2020 recommended budget maintains the county's strong fiscal position while providing for innovative programming to enable all residents to share in the progress and growth of our community. As highlighted in today's discussion of Rise Together Franklin County, Forward Cities, and the Northwest Corridor Study, we cannot achieve success without collaboration with other governments, nonprofits, the faith community, and businesses to address poverty, increase access to quality child care, ensure an inclusive economy, implement smart justice initiatives, and sustain our infrastructure. We appreciate the many partners who offer their time and talents to collectively address our challenges and identify the opportunities to make our community even better. You are part of the reason thousands of new residents choose to call Franklin County their home each year. The budget hearings have been scheduled so that an open public discussion may take place concerning the 2020 recommended budget. County administration looks forward to working with the Board of Commissioners as it deliberates and takes actions to finalize the budget for 2020. I would like to thank all of the elected county officials, agency directors for their cooperation and commitment to the residents of Franklin County. Special acknowledgement goes to Zach Telerik and Heidi Hallis and the entire team within the Office of Management and Budget for their assistance in developing the 2020 budget recommendations. I can't conclude this address without sharing my appreciation for the work and dedication of Deputy Administrators Eric Janis, Chris Long, and Keena Smith. Finally, I would like to thank the Board of Commissioners for your continued support and leadership in serving every resident every day. If you would like to take any questions, my colleagues and I will answer any questions, President Brown.
I will let my colleagues ask questions if you have.
Okay, well, thank you, Commissioner President Brown, and I want to thank the administration for what I think is a well-thought, a well-done presentation, or thoughtful and well-done presentation on Franklin County's direction over the next year. I always find it interesting for these hearings because there's a lot to take in a little bit amount of time, and so you almost end up in a situation where you can't ask all the questions you want because we have a limited time on this floor. And so I do have a line of questioning, but I'm also going to follow up with you on additional questions. So this isn't all my questions, but these are the things that I think I'd like just a little bit of clarification on today. One, let me say, how about this new room? I know it's like no one's talking about it, but I see Director Reardon there smiling, cheesing, waiting on some feedback, and I'm looking forward to this level of functionality and certainly create more access to the public. But we're here for the budget, and so let me just focus on this for a second. The one thing I didn't hear, again, thanks, Administrator, well done presentation, as always, very thoughtful and thorough. One of the things, and again, because you're getting so much, I might have missed it. Sometimes I'll start reading to zero in or checking some numbers, and you've moved on, and so I might have missed something, so forgive me if I did. But you didn't mention our sort of statutory requirement for the rainy day fund, if we'll be making a contribution to it, where it stands, and how, because you did mention what the rating agencies look at, and embedded in that is our ability to save and be prepared for unexpected challenges. But I didn't hear you mention what we're doing with the rainy day fund or if we're doing anything with it.
President Brown, Commissioner Boyce, Commissioner O'Grady, I touched in the message. There's multiple places where would speak to your answer, so I'm going to kind of broadly speak to a few areas. The contingency that is set in this budget is funded to the ORC maximum. In addition to that, unobligated.
Which is 5%, is it?
It is 3%.
3%, okay.
Our unobligated cash balances will be at over 40%, which is in line with our peer counties that have a double AAA bond rating. And in addition to that, I will let Mr. Telerik, the OMB Director, go into the details of exactly the deposits. We have been strategically making deposits, even though it's in effect a transfer of unobligated fund balance to the statutory rainy day fund to move towards the 16.6% maximum, I believe, set by statute there.
Yeah, Commissioner Boyce, the balance currently is $52.5 million, and the intent is to provide an additional $5 million at the end of this year to bring the total to $57.5 million.
Perfect. Excellent. And then my next question is, Madam President, may I
Sure,
continue?
absolutely.
My next question is so you mentioned, and again, you're going, there's a lot you're trying to take in, so forgive me if you got like zeroed in on something, you keep going. You mentioned that, if I understood this correctly, that the growth rate of our sales tax and other funds is at 1%, or just the sales tax at 1%? And then the part B to that is that the normal trend? Is it generally around 1%? Is that higher or lower than, say, over the last decade that we've had in sales tax fluctuation?
President Brown, Commissioner O'Grady, Commissioner Boyce, the 1% that I spoke to is tied specifically to just the sales tax estimate, 1% above our projected actuals. Our general fund revenues in total is projected at a growth rate of 2.3%. Our sales tax, I'm naturally wired to conservatively estimate the amount of sales tax revenue that's coming in. So any given time, you may see at least another % upside that can be used as far as projecting how much growth there.
And Commissioner, as a follow-up, so we do get reports from Moody's Analytics in terms of forecast of retail sales. That is projected to increase by 2%. However, as part of the state budget, there is a provision that the state of Ohio has been grandfathered that allows for the application of sales tax to internet service providers. That grandfathering clause expires at the end of next year. So sales tax we currently collect from individuals when they pay for their internet service will go away next year. So as part of the reduction of going from that 2 to 1 does take into account some of that lost revenue from next year.
Man, that's a really important factor. That's really important. I'm glad you clarified that, Director. And so just a follow-up, if I might, Madam President, may I?
Sure.
So is that is that the trend typically? This 1.5%, 2%, or is it generally higher in sales tax projection, or lower? I mean, what kind of trend have we been on, say, over the last decade? So, I mean, what I'm getting at is, are we trending in a favorable sales tax collection environment, or are we trending in a more conservative sales tax collection environment?
I think in terms of the percentage, we're running about 4.5% in 2019 compared to 2018 in terms of sales tax growth. I think we have seen some fluctuations in the decade with the loss of the Medicaid managed care sales tax that we saw declines, in a couple of years previously. So again, depending on where we're at in the economic cycle and different state or federal law changes, it can kind of depend in terms of the number. I think the numbers from the forecast from Moody's are slightly lower than historical averages, I think, in anticipation of a potential slowdown in the economy. So it's another reason we want to be conservative in kind of going from that 2 to 1% as well.
Yeah, I mean, generally speaking, the trend is somewhere around 2%. Generally speaking, for example, through the third quarter of this year, the county had collected $233 million in sales tax, which is $4.8 million or 2.1% above our original estimate. So generally speaking, the sales tax has been trending upward. We had, for example, through November, we've had only 2 negative months. In those 2 months, I think, is a variance of about $1 million below estimate.
Yeah, and I guess Madam President, and then I'll stop.
Sure.
But I guess where I'm going, and these questions may come up later and may be more appropriately addressed in one-on-one meetings. But I know we've had discussions about the new jail coming online and the staffing needs there, as well as the new Forensic Science Center, which, the jail I know is a little ways out. Forensic Center is next spring. But sometimes there are positions that, even though it doesn't open until, that may chime in now for training purposes or structural purposes. And that trend is just something that I want to be cautious of and try to understand better as we make those decisions. And so I may zero in on that in some of our one-on-one meetings. I'll take a break and then I'll come back to do have some
If you
questions.
have other questions, feel free to ask them now.
Okay. All right. I'm not going to ask all of them, I promise, because I know I've got opportunity to meet with y'all one-on-one. And so, and then with JFS, I understand JFS is going to be presenting today. So I'll save some of my questions because it's directed at theirs. Let me zero in on the Community Shelter Board you mentioned. And some of I was a little bit confused as to, we're moving their appropriation around. So it's getting increased overall by $500,000. So to make sure I understand that.
President Brown, Commissioner O'Grady, Commissioner Boyce, yes, the net amount for the Community Shelter Board is going to be increased by $500,000, and those dollars will be directed entirely towards homelessness prevention services, and can provide those in detail.
Gotcha.
I will also add one more additional caveat, is that also the revenue estimates for the conveyance fee increased by approximately $300,000 for each permissive dollar levied. So it was $6.5 million suggested at the time that amount would yield. That amount has been increased to $6.8 million.
Great.
Kenneth, you're okay with it? Can I make 2 quick points? One, Commissioner, is that $500,000 increase is about a 10% increase over our overall allocation to the Shelter Board from last year. So we're increasing funding in recognition of the increasing need. And then the second piece to point out is that in addition to the increased funding, as we mentioned in the administrator's message, we're consolidating all of our funding for homelessness and housing services in a new fund housed at EDP, so that the public can clearly understand the investments that we're making in this important policy area.
Great. Thanks for that clarification. It's helpful. And then finally, I'll just ask this small, short question, I think easy question, which is, You mentioned the $15 an hour, and maybe you didn't mention it. I think you did in one of these, but then it's also outlined in some of the other backup documentation. And that's that, we went to $15 an hour for a minimum for a county worker. One of the things we've talked about offline, it's not a secret here, but we've talked about offline is the wage compression implications of the $15 an hour. Do we make any accommodations for that in this budget? Is that something we're still looking at? Is it something that still needs to be corrected, or is that something we expect to sort of level out on its own?
President Brown, Commissioner O'Grady, Commissioner Boyce, we haven't made any monetary adjustments to account for the compression issue because I've spoke with members of our collective bargaining groups, and they are aware that wage compression and a way of recognizing tenure for those employees between, say, from 10 to 15 years of service with the county. During the bargaining process, and I even, my HR director, Robert Young, we even said that we could begin these conversations earlier to come up with some type of remedy so that those employees will see something to greater recognize their longevity as it relates to the differences in wages, as from a wage equity standpoint. We have our Teamsters contract representatives for the Child Support Enforcement Agency, and we have ASME. Those contracts expire 12/31 of 2020. So we will this year begin to negotiate those agreements. And when you see the 2021 budget, which I hope that I'm here to present to you, we will have a solution and have smiling faces as it relates to as it relates to
four of us, right?
this matter. And then lastly, OCSEA, which represents the employees of the Department of Job and Family Services. I would think that we would certainly have similar conversations with them as well. Their contract expires even sooner. It expires at the end of March of 2020.
Yeah, and I mean, Madam President and Commissioner O'Grady and Administrator Wilson, I'm sensitive, and I think I'm pretty confident I speak on behalf of my colleagues too. So we're sensitive because fair is fair, and I think that's a very complex thing to deal with, but it's appropriate and necessary to deal with. And so if everyone's in agreement to wait for the CBA to be redone, that's one thing, but it still leaves a little bit of concern in my thought process just around what's fair is fair. You've got this, when you raise the sort of floor, if you will, there's implications on someone who's been in the system and is just above the new floor, and so it really takes away their years of service and earned credits. And I know the collective bargaining process comes into play and is the appropriate place to deal with that long term. But since we made the other adjustment sort of halfway through the game, it seems like there'd be some level of consideration for one time. I think we did, but it was minimal.
We've been having those conversations. We've had several. I've had several of the labor leaders in my office, along with Administrator Wilson and Director Young and others, and we've been having those conversations. And I know Ken's been working with them and having those conversations.
President Brown, Commissioner O'Grady, Commissioner Boyce, yes, when we implemented the change to the $15 minimum, we added to that a 50-cent increase up to pay grades 13, and our HR Director, Robert Young, entered into MOU, with your permission, was able to enter into MOUs. Now, we had discussions as to, was that remedy enough? But that remedy, in fact, ended up on the average of cases, higher than the base amounts as far as the annual increases were for those respective unions.
Right, but Madam President, Commissioner O'Grady, and Commissioner Wilson, I mean, if you're already making, if you've been working here for 10 years and you're making $16 an hour, and then the floor is moved to $15, and yeah, you may be over the $15, but it doesn't reflect that if that was the floor when you started, what you'd be making, and so you effectively lose that time, and that's the concept behind wage crunches. So I know this isn't the forum for that. I apologize, but I wasn't sure if I overlooked something in it, and I know Commissioner Grady has been actively and Commissioner Brown actively in those conversations. But my personal perspective would be to find a one-time sort of hit that is a true, reasonable reflection of that tenure. And I could be in the minority in terms of what that looks like myself. So it's not for me to determine. It's you guys, the professionals, too. But it does just kind of leave a little bit of I don't know, as my son would say, side-eye perspective on it. And so we can talk further offline.
President Brown, Commissioner O'Grady, Commissioner Boyce, I would like to just add one other thing that is work that will be done by county staff, our OMB director, along with our HR director. It will be coordinating a countywide classification and compensation update for non-bargaining employees. That will be an effort. I think there's only 2 county entities, 2 or 3 maybe, that haven't signed up to be a part of this. So this will be a big deal to bring all of our courts and the BOC agencies and the other agencies where there will be at least the opportunity to look at creating some parity and equity and consistency across county agencies from an equal work, equal pay standpoint, and looking at similar jobs and having the pay the same. And end some of the opportunities for poaching amongst family.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be my concern, the poaching among our electeds and other agencies. Commissioner O'Grady?
Yep, thank you. So first of all, fantastic job. We, the 3 of us have, on a regular basis, throughout the course of the year, we have, conversations, in our offices, in the public, with folks who are, constantly anxious to get at the pocketbook of the taxpayers and the residents of citizens of Franklin County. And you guys do a tremendous job of being able to put together a budget that is in the best interest of every resident of this community, and then put together a document that is very representative of the wishes of the 3 of us, of the work that you guys do, and that all of Franklin County does on a regular basis. So I think I speak for the 3 of us when I say how appreciative we are of the work that you and the staff that we have here in Franklin County does on a daily basis. I, in particular, am very appreciative of the different approach that we're going to take as it relates to the Board of Elections. The different approach that we're going to take to what has been a very difficult year, banging my head against the wall as it relates to a couple of members of the Board of Elections who obviously we don't see eye to eye with as it relates to advertising what I think is a very important exercise by those eligible residents of the community who we need to educate on their right to get out and vote. It's a civic duty that we all believe in very much and we think is important. And I'm glad that we are going to take a different approach. It is something that's been brought up to me over and over and over again, all throughout the course of the year. It was brought up to both Kevin and I on Saturday. And you know, it is something that I'm glad we're taking a different approach to. I didn't find any pleasure in voting against the budget every month, but, you know, something I felt was necessary. And so I'm glad that we're taking a different approach in 2020. I won't let up until we figure out a way to get our citizens and residents educated and our elections advertised. But I'm glad we're taking a different approach. But like I said, just about every day of the week, we have somebody in the office, in my office, whether it's a social service organization, somebody for the good of the public that's in looking for dollars, looking for county dollars. Might be a social service agency, might be a member of the business community, always looking for a piece of this budget. And generally speaking, one of the three of you is sitting in one of those meetings. If not, it's Director Shimmer, might be Director Bivens. Good afternoon, Director Bivens. Might be one of our other agency directors, generally sitting in the meeting as well. And somebody's looking for some way to get a piece of this budget. And we have to figure out how it is that we either say yes and carve out a piece of this budget for them, or say no to them very politely and tell them that that's not a mission of county government. And this budget, once again, is very, very representative of the mission and the vision of the three of us collectively, but also what we believe is the mission and the vision of what we think this community represents and what the citizens and the residents of Franklin County are interested in, and the folks who send us here to do this job every day. So thank you for all your hard work. Thank you for everything that you've put into this, the staff that you've worked with to do this, and for all the collective, unbelievable hours that you've put in sitting in our offices, listening to us, sometimes ranting and raving.
Never.
Sometimes agreeing with each other, I'm sure, because we're rarely, other than the times we get to sit here and do this, we're rarely in the same room. But sometimes I'm sure agreeing with each other, and other times I'm sure absolutely disagreeing with each other. But thank you for all of that, and appreciate all that you've done to bring us to where we are. So thank you. I don't have any questions for you. We meet so often and talk so often, I don't really have any questions for you. I usually ask you the questions while we're going through it, and Zach, sits in the office and goes through the budget, and I ask him the questions then. So,
Thank you. To my great colleagues, I think this quote that I know, Ken, you put here for a reason. And I think this is the best quote that represents the best of us here as colleagues and represents all of us as leaders in the county. Great leaders are not the best at everything. They find people who are the best at different things and get them all on the same team. And I think I would say that speaks to the best of us, who are very different in our skills and experience and expertise and what we bring to the table. And I know it speaks to all of us in the room here. We're not all the best at everything. And I would like to thank county administration and all of the work that's been put into the budget message, but not just the message, to all of the budget documents that are behind the message. I know the work that gets put into putting the budget together. I know the hours, the days, the weeks, the months that you put into this, and the people that put that work into it. This takes an awful lot of time, care, and the attention that you put into this every day. And I'm looking forward to the budget hearings so that we can go through what we need to go through afterward and during the hearings. And I know what it takes to craft what becomes the puzzle of putting together all of the financial work that goes into this. And I don't want to belabor that, but thank you for this initial budget message, which is putting together a very fiscally responsible budget. And I look forward to getting into the details that we'll get into both in public and then individually with you to get to the final budget. And I don't have any questions right now, but I know I will have questions going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, President Brown, Commissioner O'Grady, Commissioner Boyce. Yes, this is a process. Yes, it's a process that takes time. And this process could not be successful without a team of talented individuals that bring different things to the table every day. I give so many quotes that when I say something or bring something up, I say it better be good today. If I don't have a good one today, it's not worth putting on paper. So
That is a good one.
but I'm a big believer in building teams and allowing those individuals that are a part of your team to shine and show their talents while they develop the areas where they may not be as strong. And I thought that this quote here reflects my leadership brand of being a servant leader and respecting those around you and trying to build and foster and nurture the best team possible.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Well, it says here we are running late, but I would like to give us a very short 5-minute break while you leave and we get set up for our Office on Aging to present their budget. So we'll take a short break.